Hello and welcome back to the When You're podcast, the podcast for when you're doing anything. Today we're talking about when you're playing badminton. Now, I've been playing a lot of badminton lately. I've gotten addicted to the game. It's so much fun. There's just something about it. I like tennis. I used to play tennis in school. It used to be so much fun. I used to play it a lot. I used to go to the court with my family and we just hit the tennis ball back and forth, back and forth. And it was mainly just to practice the sport because I would play it in school. So they wanted me to practice it over and over again, And I mean, we used to do that all the time with sports in general, but I'm just saying that during that time, that was when we were going to the tennis courts a lot and we were doing that. And I kind of feel that same spirit when I play badminton. And I like tennis, but badminton is so, there's just something so great about it. And I love playing it. And I feel this great energy when I'm in the zone, you know what I mean? When it's that constant back and forth. So I've been playing it a lot lately and I feel this sudden, I don't want to say rush, but it's more of I get a real great enjoyment playing it. And it's one of those sports where it's not heavy. It's not like playing basketball or football where you have to run down the field or you have to go back and forth between the court. Not that that's in particularly difficult for me, but badminton is there's a good amount of movement, but it's not running heavy. Does that make sense? You still get a good workout, you still get a good move doing it. It's like tennis, You don't see them full on sprinting. They do sometimes when it's they hit the ball onto one side of the court and then they hit it to the other side to get you to knock you off your game, to get you to miss the ball. So they hit it as hard as they can to the other side and you have to run to get it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that sometimes, but not really, because there's a small space. The tennis courts are a lot bigger, a lot wider. But what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't require heavy movement. It requires focus, skill, and the persistence to keep on hitting to keep the birdie up. So it requires a good amount of focus. You have to keep your eye on the birdie. For those of you who don't know, the birdie is just the little thing that you hit in the air instead of a ball. So in tennis, they would hit they would hit a tennis ball across the court. This one's a birdie, and it's a lot lighter, it's a lot smaller, and it's so cool. So as I'm playing this game, I feel this great enjoyment from it because I've played soccer, I've played football, I've played basketball, and I like those games. Those games are a lot of fun. But there's sometimes you don't always get the chance to score. Does that make sense? In badminton, it's pretty much heavily focused on you for the most part, at least in my experience. When you play on singles, especially. But when it's doubles, sometimes maybe you don't get the birdie hit to you all the time. And you kind of want your teammate to play as well. That's kind of how I feel about it. It's I could hog the birdie. I could always go for it. I could always run to it. I could hit it every single time I wanted to. Or I hit it a few times back and forth. And then, you know what? My partner can get it. They can go for it. They can hit the birdie back. I always want to keep it fair, at least for them. But I was trying to say that badminton, there's always a chance to score. There's always a chance to keep going. Whereas in basketball, there are four other people on the court. So sometimes maybe you're not even on offense. Maybe you're just trying to help somebody else out, or you have to pass the ball to somebody else to get them the opportunity. And football is maybe you're offensive lineman. You don't necessarily get the ball all that often, but you still get to actively participate. It's just not the same. But for badminton, I just feel there's this. It's really fast paced. It gets your mind, it gets you focused, and nothing else matters during that moment. It's not about it's not about, well, I mean, it is about the score. I think it's more of like, it's less about attack as much as it is about, I mean, you do want to be aggressive and you do want to hit the birdie. You do want to score points, but it's not like when you play soccer, you're like, the goal is to hit the ball straight into the goal. You know, that's what everybody wants. That's the main purpose. And with badminton, it's like, okay, I get one chance to go to get a point on their side. And then if I can't, I immediately have to play defense. Whereas like football is like, all right, let's say you get like about 3 to 4 tries to get the ball forward past a certain amount of yards, right? I have that amount of tries to do it, and then the other team gets a turn, you know? Whereas it's like, I get one chance, I hit it, it doesn't make it, all right, now I have to play defense. It's really quick, back and forth, the switch. So that's kind of what I like about the game, and it's what I enjoy about it, playing it, is that like, I have to survive, you know? I either go for the kill or I'm on survival mode. I go for the kill or survive. So it's never a feeling of constant attack or constant defense, which it sometimes is during those games. Because when you're playing soccer, the other team might hold the ball for a long time, right? They might pass it back and then pass it back again and then pass it back to the goalie and then they kick it and then they hold on to, you know, they go through all this stuff. It takes forever for them to score, right? And even if they do, they maybe score like once, twice, you know? Whereas in badminton, it's like you play to 21 points and so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying? So, and obviously the rules also apply to tennis. When I'm talking about like constant offense and defense, but I feel for badminton, it's not that there isn't skill in tennis, but I'm just saying that like in tennis, it's a lot more difficult. Tennis, because the ball is a lot heavier and you have to hit with a lot more force and impact, whereas with badminton, there's a lot more grace in it. You know, you can be a lot softer, you can be a lot more gentle, and that creates a whole set of other problems. Whereas in tennis, it's like they hit it hard, you have to hit it hard back. You know, so you have to meet them at the same level. Whereas in badminton, it's like I could hit it hard, I could hit the birdie hard as I can, and then they can block it really soft, and then it comes over the net, and then I have to like instantly change to defense and reply back in kind. Or try again really hard. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit different. But I've been playing mostly indoors. But when I get a chance, I don't always have the opportunity to play indoors on an indoor court. So as an alternative, I play outside on a tennis court. Now, a tennis court and a badminton court are two separate courts. The badminton court is a lot smaller, and the tennis court is obviously a lot bigger, and it's also outside. So it's been really windy here for quite some time, and raining. It's been raining crazy, so it's been a little difficult to get outside. But when the conditions are really good, then I go out there and I play and I practice. I also practice on like the wall. You could just hit the bat. That's another thing. I guess you could do that with tennis or with soccer, right? You could just kick the ball against the wall, or you could hit the tennis ball against the wall, right? But I feel like that's a lot louder and it's a lot more difficult, whereas with the birdie, it's a lot of a softer impact. And if you hit it soft, then the wall is just going to bounce it off soft, so you can really get a good practice in. And it's you versus the wall. It's not you versus like you versus you. It's you versus the wall, right? So you always want to try to keep the birdie up as long as possible. You want to keep the birdie going. So the biggest difference between playing outside and playing inside is obviously inside has a lot better conditions for myself to play. It's not so much because of the external factors. The wind could blow it away. The wind could carry it. The wind could mess it up, or Even the sun outside can sometimes mess up your eyes. You're trying to look for the birdie and you look up and the sun is right there and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm blind, and you can't hit the birdie back. So those are the other conditions that kind of mess you up. And that's why I prefer the indoor. I mean, it's supposed to be an indoor sport, but when I don't have access to a court, I don't have access to a gymnasium all the time, or I don't have access to the right conditions to play, I work with what I got, and it's actually been pretty good. It's not so bad, and training in a harder place kind of makes it going indoors or playing indoors or inside a lot easier. So, it's a good training. It's a good warm up. Now, there are certain things that happen during the game that can account for failures. Like, I'll say this. When I have a dented birdie, so like maybe the feathers or the... sometimes you play with the plastic ones. Well, I primarily play with the plastic ones. And the plastic ones, they have a... what's it called? They can get bent, and when they get bent, they can kind of move weird, or they when you hit it and it goes up into the air, it maybe like spins or twirls in the wrong way, and it just doesn't feel like a good hit. It doesn't feel like a good birdie. So you always need a good solid birdie in order to keep the game going, in order to get a good game. And I was playing outside, and I found that one of the birdies that I was playing with was messed up. It wasn't... I had beaten the heck out of it because I had been practicing so much against the wall. And then when I went outside to the courts to play, it was all damaged. It was a complete broken shell of a birdie. It was a complete waste. So I grabbed a new one, and let me tell you, the big difference between that old birdie and the new birdie was gigantic. I mean, I hit it because it was windy outside, right? I hit the old birdie, the broken and messed up one, but it was still okay. I'm not going to say it was perfect, but it was still okay. And I hit it, right? And then it would just completely, it wouldn't go anywhere. The wind would knock it down or mess with it, and it just wouldn't work out. Whereas when I grabbed the new birdie and I hit it in the wind, the same conditions, same outside on the tennis court, it flew. It like completely worked. It was cutting through the wind, and then it got hit back, and then I got to hit it back. It was so much better. And sometimes when you're indoors and you're playing with the plastic ones, you have to get the right feel for it. You got to get the right birdie for yourself. Otherwise, you're going to mess up a lot, or there are going to be certain things that happen. So I'll try to hit the birdie up, and if I hit it up, maybe it'll twirl the wrong way, or if I hit it, then the return might be weird. So they might hit it to the right, but it might spin a little to the left, and it might mess me up. So while I'm keeping my eye on the birdie, it could definitely change and mess up the flow of the game, if that makes sense. So, and I don't think that's goes for any other game, right? Like if a soccer ball kind of deflates, obviously you just get another soccer ball, right? Or you can still manage with it somehow. Or I guess there aren't a lot of circumstances where obviously if it's a messed up one, you get a new one. That's kind of a given. But the birdie itself isn't necessarily isn't necessarily broken. Like if a basketball pops, right, it's not usable anymore. Whereas if a birdie gets dented, it's still usable. It's just not a good birdie. Does that make sense? So you got to get rid of that one, even though you could technically still use it, but you just don't want to use it. I hope that makes sense. I hope that works correctly. Because I'm trying to say is that in other sports, obviously the ball pops, the ball doesn't, it deflates, it doesn't work anymore. You obviously got to get a new one. There's no situation where, maybe the football gets dented a little bit, or, or like a little air comes out of like a soccer ball, or maybe a tennis ball gets like a little messed up, like maybe a dent in the tennis ball or whatever, and you can still play with it, but it kind of ruins a lot of the game. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I'm just trying to say is that the birdie can sometimes make or break the game, you know. So you got to get a good one, and when you get a solid one, when you get the perfect sweet spot of a birdie to racket combo, because sometimes I play with a broken racket. Now I play with the broken racket because maybe sometimes the other rackets are not good. The other rackets are sometimes messed up and ruined. I mean, the other rackets are taken because other people are playing with them, right? So I grab the racket that I can, and I play with it, you know? And if you can survive with a bad birdie and a broken racket, then you're a good badminton player. But if you get a bad racket and a good birdie, you know, there's any number of things. But all I'm trying to say is that there's a certain sweet spot when you get a good racket and you get the perfect birdie and you hit it just in the center of the racket. Because sometimes I'll hit the birdie with the racket, but it won't be dead center. Because that's all we're going for, right? We're going for dead center of the racket to give it the most amount of bounce, hit, and force to send it back to your opponent. You know what I mean? But sometimes I hit the birdie and it'll hit like the middle outside. It'll hit the frame of the badminton racket. And when it hits the frame of it, I can still send it back, but it'll just be a weird hit. It won't feel like a good solid hit of the birdie. So it ends up a little bit weird. But then, you know, there's obviously the other time. As opposed to when I hit it dead center perfectly, I hit like a clear shot way up high, right? And it just feels good. You feel like you hit the birdie solid. You did a good job with it. And then when you smash the birdie down, that's the coolest part. That's probably one of the coolest parts of the game, is when you get that perfect angle when your opponent hits it up high and you're like, all right, I'm going to smack it down on them. And then you boom, all the way down, and then it hits the ground and you're like, yes. And then you get the point. I mean, it's really that simple. It feels, but what I'm trying to get at is that, like, there's this beautiful sweet spot when you're in the pocket of doing really great at the game, you know? Because sometimes you rally and it feels like you could have done better, or, you know, you're just rallying for fun. You're not really taking it seriously. But whereas if you're playing a real game and you're both rallying back and forth all of the time and you're keeping it going, you know, both sides giving it their all to make sure that they keep the birdie alive and to score the point. When that happens, I tell you, it's so much fun, and I can't help but like get a smile on my face or laugh a little bit. I get this feeling every single time. It's like, all right, it's getting intense. It's getting good. You know, it's getting a lot more fun. It's getting a lot more heated in that moment. So when that happens, I constantly can't help but get a smile on my face when it happens. You know, it's always a good time. It's always cool to be in that pocket. You know what I'm saying? Of who's going to get it, you know? Oh, they hit it. They just gave their best hit to me, but I defended it. I kept it up, right? They didn't get it, you know? They tried again. They still didn't get it. They kept it up. Now it's my turn to get at them. You know what I mean? It's this constant back and forth that I really enjoy, and that's so much fun for me. And that sweet spot, I'm telling you, when you hit it just right, the birdie, when you hit the sweet spot and you're in that space where it's like, I'm doing the best I can and it's going really well and it's working, you know? That's what I like. And it's probably one of the few times in sports, I mean, you get that feeling in a lot of sports, right? Where it's like you have perfect control of, like, if you're playing soccer, you have perfect control of the ball, or you're playing basketball and you're like, once the ball is in my hand, I can command it. I can get it to move. I can pass it through my legs. I can move it around my back. I can dribble it. I can cross over. I can do whatever I want with it. And when I jump and I shoot it, it's going to go into the basket every single time because I've practiced it, you know? That's the sweet spot. That's the golden moment where it's like all of your training and all of your practice has really paid off. And I like that, you know? And it makes me feel good when I get that sweet spot when I'm playing. And I guess the same could be said when you don't have the ball in your hands, right? So I feel like for everybody, the moment, the opportunity comes when you get the ball or you hit the birdie back. You know what I'm saying? Once you hit it back, there's nothing to do but wait, you know? And that's also another part of it, but it's maybe not the golden moment. Is it? Okay, let me put in let me think about it in another perspective. Okay, so you're playing defense for football, right? Now you're not playing offense. Well, I guess that doesn't make a lot of sense because only the quarterback would be in that sweet spot, that perfect pocket of that golden moment where he has the ball in his hands, he throws it down the field, and then the wide receiver catches it. Right? That would be, but then the wide receiver running out there and being opened for the pass, that's also the moment. But also, they have the ball. So, of course, that's the moment for them, right? Whereas the defense, what's the moment for them? Blocking, or I guess when they rush the quarterback, that's the moment. And either they did their job or they didn't. Yeah, that'd have to be the moment. That would have to be their sweet spot. Their sweet spot would have to be the moment when the ball gets hiked to the other team's quarterback and they have to rush them. They have to do everything they can to stop that ball. And everybody on that defense has a part to play. And if they don't do it right, then they're not going to obviously win the game. So I guess when the defense finally catches either the running back or the wide receiver, or they tackle, they sack the quarterback, that's their moment. You know, that's what they tackle people every single time for. You know what I mean? Now, another aspect to playing badminton is diving for the birdie. There's a certain point, right, where you have to do everything you can to keep the birdie up in the air, you know? And I see this a lot when I watch like badminton videos or like tournaments of people playing, and they'll dive straight for the birdie. And I've done this a few times, try to keep it up because you're right there. You know, you just need an extra leap to save it, right? And I'm trying to, I equate it to when I was watching this documentary called The Dream Team. It was about the 2000, was it 2008 or 2012? It was about the basketball Olympic team. I forget what, I think it was 2008. I want to say it was 2008, but it could have been 2012. I honestly, I can't remember the year, but it was the basketball Olympic team, right? And they had everybody on the court. They had LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Kobe Bryant. They had everybody on the dream team. You know, this was a really big deal for the Olympic, for them to win gold at the Olympics. So I remember they were talking about how they were practicing, and then Kobe, on the first day of practice, they were playing basketball, and the ball had kind of flew out of somebody's hands and was going out of bounds, and Kobe jumped and dove for the ball and saved it, get it back to the team. And the coaches were looking at each other like, we never had a game, we never practiced like this before. We've never had somebody like this before on the team. And it kind of woke everybody up of like, you got to go for it. And that's how I feel when I'm diving for the birdie. I'm like, I have to dive for it. I have to save this birdie. You know, I have to keep it alive. It's not going to die on my side of the court. I have to keep it up. I have to save it from hitting the floor on my side. On the other team side, all day. It's safe over there. On my side of the court, nah, it's not gonna happen. So that's kind of what I think about in that moment. Is like I have to be willing to go for it. Now, I don't do that all the time. Sometimes I'll make the effort to run for it or to happily skip over there and save the birdie, but I won't always die for it. And that's just because not because it's not worth it, but I mean, we're just playing, you know what I mean? It's not for the Olympics, you know what I mean? They're playing for gold here, you know what I mean? Now, that's defense. You're trying to save the birdie. Now, the other part is I got to smash, and by smash I mean you just literally hit the birdie down over the net onto your opponent's side so that way they can't hit it. And there's that perfect smash where you just hit it dead center, straight down, and it goes right over the net, as close to the net as possible, down into your opponent's side of the court, and you score a point, right? That's beautiful. That's perfect. There's certain times when it happens that maybe kind of... Let me put it like this. You know that moment where like an NBA player, they jump up and they go to shoot the basketball into the basket, right? They try to get a three-pointer or something. But when they shoot it, it kind of hits the rim a little bit, It still goes in. They still get the point, or maybe they hit it off the backboard. It still gets in, right? But it doesn't make that nothing but net swish. It's not swoosh. It's not that perfect fall into the basket. It took a little bit of a bounce in. Which is also cool. You got it, but it's also like, did I really get it? Was I really on point? Was I really that skilled? It took a little bit of. I got it there, sure, but it also took a little bit of luck. It took just that tiny piece of it to like land perfectly inside of the basket because it could have gone out. You know what I mean? Sometimes I feel that way when I do a smash. It won't be perfect. It won't be exactly what I want, but it'll still get the job done. But I'll always kind of in the back of my mind feel like I could have hit that a lot better. I could have gotten it in that sweet spot right in the middle. I could have hit it down a lot better. I still managed to score the point. They weren't able to return it, but they also still they could have. You know what I mean? There could have been an opportunity for both of them to do it, and I want perfection. I want it to be that great moment between what's it called? Not between something. That great moment where it's like there was no possible chance for them to return it. That's what I want. I want there to be no uncertainty on my part that they couldn't have gotten it. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you're like, what was that show? The Queen's Gambit, right? Spoilers for the Queen Gambit if you haven't watched it. There's a point in the show, one of the episodes, where Anya Taylor-Joy's character realizes that in one of her chess games, she could have lost her leverage or lost her pieces to her opponent. So she's talking to this other chess player, really good chess player, and he's telling her, well, there could have been an opportunity. You should have done this move instead of that move because there could have been a chance for him to take your piece, and then he could have won. He could have beaten you at the game. And she was like, "What? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're saying." And he's like, "Look, just play it out in your head. Put the pieces together and do it." And she's like, "I don't want to do it." And he's like, "All right, whatever." He walks away, and then she puts it together and she realizes he could have beaten me, And what she wants is absolute certainty that no matter what, she could have won. That she played the best move possible. That's how I feel. I want to know that I made the best possible smash onto the other person's side of the court so that there's absolutely no way that they could have returned it. There's no chance that they could have spun around or done like a random trick shot where they hit it back, right? There's no chance. There was no possibility of them ever getting the birdie back. And that's what I want. That's the perfect smash that I'm looking for every single time. And when I don't get it, I'm just like, I could always be better. I could always do better. And that's kind of where the fun is. I'm not perfect at the game, and I can always get better. And that's why I don't take it really all that serious. I like playing. I don't... I do get a little competitive. I do like to win. I do like to know that I'm doing the best I can, But I also don't take it too serious or on the nose if I lose. I'm not like, I'm not like angry at my partner or at my opponents or anything. I'm just kind of like, let's play again. Let's keep going. I think it can be better next time, right? And that's kind of just the way I feel, is that trying to have fun during the game is what's most important. So I like to smile a lot during my matches, a lot with my teammate. And I also like to offer a lot of encouragement, especially if my teammate messes up. Maybe they miss the birdie, sending it back, or maybe they mess up on a serve, or they don't get the return right, or because there's certain times where I have to rely on them. If I'm close up to the net, or if I'm playing front and they're playing back, and they hit the birdie all the way back, I have to give my teammate the opportunity to hit it, right? If I don't, I'm just like hogging the birdie. It's not fun to not be playing, you know what I'm saying? But then there are other times where like I do get competitive, and I'm like, let me take it. I got to carry this team on my back. And times like that, I will say I do hog the birdie, but I'm trying to help us win here. This isn't. I'm trying to give us the best chance to play, right? To keep it interesting. You know what I mean? If I don't keep it interesting, then we'll never truly get better, It'll just be easy for the other team to like beat us, right? I need to make it good. Give it a good storyline, kind of. You know what I'm saying? So, and when I do that, the more often I find myself like having fun and smiling. So every time I serve, I like to make sure that my opponents are ready. So I give them a good like a head nod. I give them a good smile, and I say, "You ready? Let's go." And then I hit it, and then we get started. And I get really, like I said before, I get really excited. I get really smiley when we've been hitting the birdie back and forth, and we're both trying to beat the other team. We're really in that space where it's like, you're not holding anything back, and I'm trying to beat you as well. And we're still not able to get this birdie on the ground. Nobody has secured a point yet. And that's what's fun. That's what I like the most. And that's what kind of makes me want to keep on playing, And that's why every time I do play, I look for that golden opportunity to keep the birdie up, keep the birdie alive. Because sometimes my opponents, they'll double hit it. So for badminton, you can only hit the birdie once on each side. So if I hit it and then my teammate hits it, it doesn't count. But when the other team does it, like let's say I hit it to them, one of them hits it, but then their teammate they realize it's not going to go over the net. So they hit it again to keep it going. And I just play it, because it's like, one, I'm winning, I have more points than them. And two, because let's just keep it going, let's not ruin the flow here. Let's try to keep it up as much as possible. And what I don't like is when we're rallying, like we're just like hitting the birdie just to practice a little bit to get a good warm up, and then my opponent just like constantly is knocking the birdie down, or is just constantly going after maybe my teammate who isn't as good as I am, and they're like really hitting the birdie as hard as they can at them, or they're tricking them into thinking, you know what I mean? Like they're taking advantage that they're not that good, and they'll go after them. You know what I mean? They'll target after them. Which on the one hand is like, well, that's experience. That's how they learn. That's how they get better, right? But on the other hand, it's like, yo, you gotta make it a good game. You can't just like, what's it? Don't make it like quick, and don't go for a quick and easy win, especially when it's not like, there's nothing on the line here. It's just us playing, it's not, or us rallying, you know what I mean? We're just like practicing and warming up, so we don't have to like kill the birdie every single time. We don't have to smash it. We don't have to do it, you know what I mean? All of the time, right? Sometimes, yeah, you can try. You can definitely get a good practice going. You can definitely warm up that way by practicing your smashes, or maybe your backhand, right? But not all of the time. I would rather have a fun and slow game, right? Like easy, slow, but fun, right? We constantly hit the birdie back and forth, as opposed to playing my opponents and constantly trying to just beat them every single time. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm not trying to be super vicious or aggressive. I'm not like going for the win constantly. I'm like, let's all play, You hit it, now I'm going to hit it to your teammate. So that way they have a chance to return it. And then this person has a chance to return it. And then my teammate gets to go. And then you and I go back and forth. You know what I mean? Like that's just how I feel. I want it fun and everybody included, as opposed to me hitting it and scoring a point, and having an easy win, so to speak. So that's what I like, and that's what I try to do every time. So I looked up some tips. If you're playing badminton, or if you've ever played, or if you want to play, this is just kind of some, what is it called? It's just some tips to become a better player. So one of the first ones they talk about is getting good footwork. So for badminton, you kind of want to move side to side. You don't want to like cross step or like regularly run. You want to do side steps like a crab. You know what I mean? And you do that when you're backing up. You do that when you're going forward. You don't want to, you also want to keep like your, a wide stance. You want to stay low to the ground, so that way if they try to smash it, you can save it. You know what I mean? If you stay low, you can notice where they're going to hit the birdie, and then you can save it. You can also practice on the shots. You can do the clear, you can do drop shot, you could do smashes. It also says you can practice different grips. So you can have the grip that I normally use is just like well, sometimes I'll change it depending on it. So if I'm doing a backhand, I'll put my thumb on the handle, and then I'll hit it back like that. But when I'm doing like a forehand or something, I'll grip it with my thumb as well. So yeah, you could also work on your serves. Serves are really important because, I don't really mess up my serves all that much, but I think I could serve a lot better, if that makes sense, depending on the circumstance. Let's see, what else is there? There's stretching. You got to get a good flexibility. You got to be able to move on the court, right? So if you're not good at moving, or maybe you have a little issue with how flexible you are, or like your reach, right? You gotta know how to move. You gotta make it easy for yourself to go for a long what's it called? That way you don't have to dive as much, is what I'm trying to say. You know how I said, like, I sometimes dive for the birdie? You don't want to always do that. So sometimes you could just, like, work on extending your arms or stretching your legs and making sure that you're able to move. What else is there? Yeah, just keep on, practice makes perfect, and muscle memory will definitely kick in. So if you constantly keep reworking the same, if you may work some drills, or you do like warm-ups and practices, like, you'll get the hang of it, no problem. And keep focus on the birdie. Always have good eye contact with it, and always try to make sure, think ahead and let your experience guide you. They hit it there last time, maybe they'll hit it there again. You gotta think ahead, and stay focused, and that way you'll become better and better and better every single time. But it's not a science. You're gonna mess up, you're gonna make mistakes, but you can always get better, and you can always improve. So yeah, that's just kind of how I feel playing the sport. So anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you so much for subscribing to the YouTube channel. It means a lot, and I'll see you guys all next time. Thank you so much. Bye.